Hey guys, YT Money Nerd here. Today I want to talk about credit card debt. This is the second video I'm doing on personal finance, and for my first video I did an introduction of sorts where I talked about having realistic expectations. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'd recommend watching it first because that's going to be the foundation for everything I talk about from here on out. Go ahead and check out the link below in the description and come back after watching that if you haven't already. Okay, so this video is going to be all about credit card debt. This is the very first subject we need to talk about because, as some of you may know, credit card debt can be absolutely crippling. If it spirals out of control, it can really crush your finances and maybe even send you into bankruptcy. Almost everybody deals with debt in some form, but credit card debt is generally the most vicious. One of the most important concepts to understand about debt is that when you borrow money, there is usually a cost. Most often, this cost takes the form of interest. Interest is a cost that gets added as a percentage to what you borrow. The total cost to you is your borrowed amount multiplied by your interest percentage multiplied by time. For example, if I give you $100 as a loan, I might set some terms to that loan. If I'm a particularly generous person, I might give you that loan interest-free. This means that I let you borrow $100 and at some point I expect you to pay me back exactly $100. However, in the financial world, I would typically be operating as a business that needs to make money. So, in this example, I might loan you that $100, but only if you agreed to pay me interest on that loan, which I might set at 10% per month. So a month goes by and it's time for you to pay the loan back. Now, since I'm charging you 10% interest on that loan, you owe me $110. If another month goes by, you owe me an additional 10% of the $110. 10% of $110 is $11, so 110 plus 11 equals $121. When interest stacks up from one payment to another, this is called compound interest. If you have a high interest rate on your debt, compound interest can cause the original amount that you borrowed to explode. This is the trick that credit card companies in particular use to force you to pay them a lot of money for borrowing from them. Interest rates on credit cards can be 25 or 30% if a credit card company thinks that they're taking a big risk that you'll pay them back what you borrow. This is why it is key that you make eliminating that high interest debt like credit card debt your number one priority. Now, I'm going to take a quick second to explain how credit card companies work in case that last bit wasn't clear. A lot of people think that when they apply for a credit card and get approved, that little plastic card is a card that gives them access to free money. This is absolutely not true. Credit cards can be extremely dangerous if you don't understand how they work or if you abuse them. The way that credit cards work is that a credit card company offers a service where they essentially give you a credit card that gives you the power to borrow money from the credit card company to pay for things. When you apply for a credit card, the credit card company typically checks your creditworthiness, which means that they look at your financial history and make a determination of how trustworthy you are to repay debt. One of the main things that they look at is your credit score, which is higher when they trust you to repay them and lower when they don't trust you to repay them. When you get approved for a credit card, you get approved for what is called a line of credit. This means that the credit card company will let you borrow money from them whenever you want up to a dollar limit that they set called a credit limit. If you get approved for a credit card with a credit limit of $1,000, you can purchase whatever you want with your credit card until your purchases add up to $1,000. If the credit card company determines that you are more likely to repay your debt, they will give you a higher credit limit. When you make those purchases, you're actually borrowing money from the credit card company to buy those things. Every month you get a bill that adds up all the things that the credit card company loaned you money for, and now you have to pay them back for the things you bought with their money. If you can, you should pay the full bill every month. If you do this, you only have to pay back exactly what you borrowed. If you only pay part of the bill, the rest gets interest applied to it that you have to pay next month. For example, if you get approved for a new credit card and then go spend $100, you're going to get a bill for $100 at the end of the month. You can choose to pay back however much you want between the minimum that they ask for and the full $100 balance. Let's say you choose to only pay half, which would be $50. This leaves $50 that you still have to pay back next month. But now, since you didn't pay the full $100, the credit card company is going to apply interest to the $50 you still owe them. Let's say that you have an interest rate of 24% per year. This would be a pretty standard interest rate for a credit card. This 24% per year equates to an interest rate of 2% compounded monthly. So now this means that you owe the $50 you didn't pay, plus 2% of that, which is another $1. So $51 next month. If you spend another $100 the second month that you have your credit card, that means that you'll owe $151 on the second bill. Now, I did the math for you for an entire year of repeating this cycle, and here are the totals. In 1 year, you spent $1,200. You paid back $600 of those dollars. After 12 months of that interest accruing, you built up an extra $70.60 that you have to pay back on top of the $600 that you still haven't paid back from the original $1,200. This means you're paying almost 6% more for all that stuff you bought. After 2 years, that goes up to over 13%, and after 3 years, it's like you spent over 22% more for all of the stuff that you bought. You can see how if you repeat this cycle every month, you'll build up a pile of debt that becomes harder and harder to pay back. So if you have credit card debt, your number one financial goal should be to pay off that debt as aggressively as you can. The quicker you can pay off that debt, the less interest you will have to pay. The more money you can put towards your credit card balance each month, the less interest your balance will accrue the following month, and the easier it will be to pay off the rest. When you are trying to pay off credit card debt, the best thing that you can do is to find out what the interest rate is for each credit card you have. You can find each card's interest rate for purchases on your monthly statement. You should begin by paying off the card with the highest interest rate first, while paying the minimum on the others. As you pay each card off, move on to the card with the next lowest interest rate and repeat until you're debt-free. One thing that you can do if you're struggling to pay down high-interest credit card debt is to apply for a balance transfer credit card. The advantage of getting approved for a balance transfer credit card is that these types of credit cards offer you 0% interest on any balance transfers you make from another credit card for a period of time. You can transfer some or possibly even all of your credit card debt from another card with a high interest rate to the balance transfer credit card and not have to pay interest on the balance for however many months offered by the balance transfer credit card. You can use this period of time without having to pay interest to pay off your debt more quickly. Once you have your credit card debt paid off, it's up to you whether or not you want to continue using your credit card. I personally wouldn't recommend closing your accounts because that can negatively affect your credit score, which is important if you need to borrow for other purchases, like a car or a home. Credit cards can be a valuable financial tool, but if you have difficulty resisting temptation to purchasing things that are non-essential, it's best to either close most of your accounts after paying them off or leave them in a drawer instead of your wallet or purse and use either cash or a debit card linked to your banking account. For those of you who decide to keep your credit cards and use them, make sure to pay off your balance in full every month to avoid racking up interest. If you can't tell by now, it's best to avoid credit card debt to begin with. It can get you into a deep hole that is hard to get out of, but if you put together a solid plan to start paying that high interest debt down, you can get yourself on the path to financial success. That wraps up this video, so thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.